projecting that we need to win at least 99 games in order to make it to the postseason. We need to score at least 814 runs in order to win those games and allow no more than 645 runs.
What's this?
This is the code that I've written for our year-to-year projections. This is building in all the intelligence that we have to project players.
Okay.
It's about getting things down to one number. Using the stats the way we read them, we'll find value in players that nobody else can see. People are overlooked for a variety of biased reasons and perceived flaws.
We're recommending this video to the Giants. Ladies and gentlemen, Community Benchmark founder John Keleher returns today with his very interesting take on D2C sales in 2018 and with some predictions for the current year and the remaining months ahead. Community Benchmark's analysis of month-to-month tasting room performance based on actual dating reported by competitive wineries addresses an immutable truth, and that is understanding how your metrics compare with other wineries like yours is absolutely critical. John Keleher, ladies and gentlemen.
Testing, nice. So speaking of data and benchmarking, thank you for still being here. I imagine you're either part of the data junkie crowd or maybe you're just not quite ready to go back to work. But either way, I think I've got some interesting stuff for you today. I'm obviously John, the founder of Community Benchmark. I founded the project to help you make sense of industry data and to make it actionable. A lot of people think that industry data is something, a report you look at once a year, but imagine how much more you could learn if you could, on a regular basis, compare your own key metrics with your peers. That's what we do. It's an online platform that does it automatically on a regular basis. So, from last year, we've doubled our membership here in Napa. And actually this year it's an exciting year for us because we're going to quadruple our team, which by the way, the math on that is 4 times 1. But we're also going to double our membership. We're moving into probably Oregon, Washington, Sonoma, etc. Cheers. We're already in Paso and a few other regions as well. But I guess what I have for you today is this 1, 2, 3 here. So really quickly, we'll look at what happened in Napa, visitation and sales-wise. It's a big topic. And then we'll have a little bit of fun with some benchmarking to show you how to make it actionable. And then, of course, the payload at the end, some things that you can take home with you. So, really quickly, just so you know, all the data that I'm going to show you today, obviously a very good geographical spread north to south in Napa. But you can also see that a nice demographic spread as well. About half of our members are in that average monthly visitor range of 500 to 2,000, and then a quarter above 2,000, a quarter below 500. And then case production, about half are in that 10 to 50K range, and a quarter below and a quarter above. So just so you have some context. Now, we know from the Silicon Valley Bank report that visitation in Napa has been trending down over the past few years. And that 2017 there, you can see that the green bar shows that it's an estimated. But the question is, what happened in 2018? When you compare 2018 to 2017, there's something that we all, of course, need to be aware of. This is the average monthly visitor trend of all those wineries in Napa from 2017. Now there's something, does anybody see? Right, exactly. So so this was like a 50% drop in traffic from September to October based on the fires. Just so you all know, and I can show you these graphs some other time, that traffic went to Paso. When you look at the Paso visitation line, it does the exact opposite. In any case, we need to keep this in mind when we're comparing year-over-year statistics, right? So, when you look at 2018 line in red there, you really have to look at it in two distinct periods, before and after the fires. Now you can obviously see that the red line is well above the blue line for visitation in Napa from after October. But does anyone see or venture a guess at what the red line is doing before October? It's pretty subtle, but it's a little bit less. Okay, so the year-to-date visitation in Napa through September was down 2.2%. Now let's take a look at, I'm a one-line guy, so if you look at the year-over-year percent change, you can see the difference much more clearly. For example, obviously, October visitation was like 80% more this year. But also what you can see is that every month in 2018 was a down month with the exception of February. And of course, obviously, November and December in 2018 carried on a little bit better than where we were in 2017. Now, if we extend that line out to look at what's going on in 2019, we can see, just to show you, that January was a very good month, 16% increase in visitation over 2017. February pretty flat, just because it was the only month that was an improvement last year. So let's take a look at the sales line. What's the sales story? How does that relate to visitors? And again, we've got our two distinct periods, and obviously we've got an overage in October, November, and December. But what's curious, and I don't know if you all see this, but it's sort of an equal but opposite story. That the average sales year to date through September in Napa was actually up a little over 2%. So, and if you look at the year-over-year line, you can see the difference. Again, the big spike in October, 80% difference. But every month was actually just up a little bit above zero there. And if you actually overlay, this is 2019, by the way. We're continuing on the trends in January, February. So sales are up. I don't remember the exact numbers, but that looks like in the 15% range compared to 2018. So that's good news. Now, if you overlay the visitors and sales line, you can see the same story that I've been telling you. You see that the green line, a little bit of an improvement, the green line being sales in 2018, versus the purple line, visitors, being a little bit lower. And actually, if we zoom in on that, get a little more fidelity there. I'm not sure what happened in July, but that was a month where visitation was down the most. In 2018. And all of this can be summed up in a little 2x2 table. I could have just shown you this 2x2 table, but that wouldn't have been as fun as all the line graphs, would it? So, in any case, what I see here is two things. First of all, obviously it's the more with less theme. Sales in both cases through September and through December improved more in 2018 than they did in 2017 than visitation. The other thing I would say, of course, is that if you look at an annual report for 2018 visitation and sales, you're going to see obviously a different story if it includes after the fire. So I'll leave you with that. But I guess my question to you all is, that's industry data. Is it actionable? Is anyone going to go home and do something different, as Alf was just grilling my predecessors on? Is anyone going to go home and do something different based on seeing that information? That sounds like a no. Well, I would agree with you. And that's why we benchmark. That's why what we want to do is we want to compare our specific numbers with our specific peers. So I have a pop quiz moment for you all. We'll see if anyone can get this. Okay, so imagine you're a DTC director. You've got two tasting rooms. Very different ones, right? So let's say you have a high visitation mid-price point, and you've got a low visitation, high price point. So you're managing 2 tasting rooms, right? They have different comparison sets, right? You wouldn't want to compare the big one against little ones and vice versa. So imagine you're managing 2 tasting rooms, okay? And so tasting room A and tasting room B, and then you looked at the year-over-year sales difference at the end of the year, and this is what you saw. So manager A is your big tasting room, manager B is your small tasting room. The pop quiz moment is who's the better manager? Anyone? So let's just say that it was the year. So you're looking at 2018 compared to 2017. Your managers are the orange bar, and your manager's comp set is the yellow bar. Exactly. Very good. Maybe there is more data junkies here than folks that are just... Exactly. So this is the whole point. This is the reason why we benchmark, is because you're trying to find what's unique about your tasting room's performance. And if, in this case, Manager A is unique in that Manager A did not grow as much as their peers in their comp set, whereas Manager B, even though if you just looked at, so without industry data, if you just look at the orange bar, you might say, heck, like, why were we down? Well, actually, you weren't down as much as your peers. That completely flips the script. So that's why we take a crack at comparing your specific numbers against your specific peers. I'll give you one example from our software. We have a dashboard where it has really fun to use Airbnb sliders. You can slide and glide and segment all the data in Napa based on, in this case, we're looking at a comp set of Napa wineries that see more than 1,500 visitors and have a high price point. It's above $90 there. Okay, so when you look at your graph, so in this case, this winery, we're looking at the blue line is your visitation. And you don't need Community Benchmark necessarily to draw you a line graph of your visitation trend, right? But what we bring to the table is that green line, and what we're trying to understand is, as a tasting room, what's my unique visitation story? Where am I different from my neighbors and industry? Because that's where you do the learning, that's where the growth opportunity is. So, with these folks, when you look at your own blue line and the green line, you say, okay, it looks relatively on trend. You also notice, okay, January is my least visited month. We're generally on an uptrend. October is my best visited month. However, to flip the script on you, when you compare these in one line, as I showed you before, and you look at your peer index line, you see an entirely different story. So if you remember, this winery's worst month visited was January, but indexed against their peers, it's actually the month that they do the best in terms of attracting market share and visitation. And just to set those side by side, again, the blue line is what you can look at all day. The purple line is when you're indexed against your peers and you see a different story. In this case, this winery, January is our best month. Let's do more. What the heck did we do in January? Let's do more of that. Why are we on a downtrend through May? And why is May our worst month? Okay, so this is how you learn about, again, your winery's unique story. And what we do is we actually do this for tasting room, wine club, all your key metrics, all your months, and I get on the phone with everyone, we sum it up into 2 or 3 bullet points at the end that are, here's your opportunity. Not just identified, but also quantified, size of the prize. If you guys can address these metrics during these months, because your peers are, you can achieve X amount of growth. And that's what it's all about. So, just to leave you with some takeaways, I want everyone to think about how their winery grew in 2018. Visitation and sales. So, in 2018, were your sales up 5%? Were they up 15%? You know, I don't know how many of you know that off the top of your head, but probably have some idea, visitation and sales. Let's take a look at how you stacked up. Okay, so just to take you back to, I don't know, high school stats, if you remember the difference between a median and an average, okay, so median means that it's the middle value. Half of the wineries were above you and half were below. So when you look at the median growth in 2018 sales in Napa, it was 11.2%. So if you grew more than 11%, you're in the top half. Last year in the bottom half. There's more information in this graph actually, so because it's quartiles. So if you can see that top dot is about, you can't really see that, but the top dot is at 19%. What that top dot means is that if you grew more than 19% in 2018, you're in the top 25%, the top quartile of growth in Napa. If you didn't grow at all, because that bottom dot's at about 0, if you didn't grow at all in 2018, your sales, you're in the bottom quarter. You've got some work to do. And obviously, if you're in between 0 and 19, you're sort of in the middle, 50%, not necessarily that differentiated. So I'll just show you the same line for visitation. The median growth in visitation, 5.5%. So again, are you in the top half or the bottom half? And if your visitation did not grow in 2018, then of course you're in the bottom quartile, bottom 25%. If you guys want more of this, I've got these for all tasting room metrics. So in any case, this is one of the key takeaway slides I'm going to leave you with. This one, of course, I saw some pictures being taken, great. And the other one, of course, that I mentioned was more with less, so you can remember that. And then finally, if you want to know your winery's unique story, okay, and where you're different and where your growth opportunities are, here's my information. So thank you very much.
Any questions of John?
So the question is, how many wineries go into the peer group? So that depends on how you define your peer group, but generally speaking, I like to define it by how many visitors you're seeing each month and what your price point is. Those are my favorite ways to segment. And so generally speaking, you would want it, we never show data if it's less than 3, so you want at least 5 in that set, but generally speaking, probably anywhere from 5 to 20, I would say, depending on how narrow we want to go. But with the software, you can zoom in and you can zoom out and you learn from both experiences.
Yes, down here, Dave, go ahead. Madam? Yes. Repeat the question.
So the question was, what data are we measuring as far as DTC goes? Currently, Tasting Room and Wine Club, but we will be expanding to give you a full DTC picture.
Behind.
Can you assess yourself against your ABA peers, like if you're a SAGS?
Repeat the question.
Great question. So the question is, can you segment the wineries more specifically than just Napa or Paso? And the answer is yes. Right now, our sub-regions are you on Highway 29, are you on the Silverado Trail, or are you off the beaten path? But pretty quickly it will be Stag's Leap, Yountville, etc.
John, I have a question. When you've spoken to the people who are giving, the wineries that are giving you information, when you do a follow-up conversation with them, I think I know what the answer is going to be here, but what's the aha or the wow for them, if there is one?
Every aha is unique. I mean...
Is there a common thread?
The common thread I would just say is that I think either two things. We confirm or deny. Okay, so either you had a gut feeling about some trend that your tasting room or wine club is having, and then we back that up with data so that you can utilize that in your conversations with ownership, etc. Or we show you something surprising. It's like, wow, I didn't realize with the winery ratio, I didn't realize that this month or metric was our best and worst. So,
And the numbers don't lie, do they?
no, definitely not. That's the point.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please thank John for giving us his time today? Thank you, John.